Okay, now my name is Stephanie Eastman. I'm a major gift officer with the Red Cross, as you guys have heard me say. If you've heard me speak before, and some of you have, because you've all made me nervous about speaking today, you know I usually write notes and then I throw them out the window and then I just say whatever it is I'm going to say. Forgive me, I'm going to try to use my notes today because I have some really important things about the Red Cross to talk about. And I'm going to try to do it without crying. So we're going to talk about hurricane preparedness, which is what Marianne actually asked me to come speak to you about today, and a little bit about some of the money myths and where your money goes and how you can give. And then we're going to talk a little bit about Orlando and some things that the Red Cross did and some things that you can do to prepare yourself. And then we're going to wrap all that up. So before I forget, as some of you have heard me say before, I have some very important stats to tell you about the Red Cross. And I usually forget and then I walk away and then I kick myself because those are the most important things. I want to make sure you guys know that 91 cents of every dollar that we raise at the Red Cross goes directly towards services. We have very low admin costs. We're putting your money towards these services. The reason we have low admin costs is because we are made up 94% of volunteers. And I just talked to some of you guys today that are going to be good volunteers for us. We're always looking for volunteers. We are funded 99% by donors like you guys. So I'm a fundraiser and I always joke, I'm not asking you for money. Someday I'm going to ask you for money and then you're all going to run out of the room. So those are the most important three things. If you forget everything else, please know where your money is going, that we're putting it towards the services that we provide and that we rely on volunteers if you want to be one. So I'm going to talk a little bit now about hurricane preparedness, something I seriously know nothing about because I moved to Florida a year ago from Michigan where we don't have hurricanes. I can tell you all about tornadoes, not hurricanes. So I'm learning too. I'm assuming probably, I did not turn it off. Did you check the battery? Did I move? All right, let's get rid of that thing. I am loud enough. I do not need to hold that. I'll just bust out into being a DJ and then these guys go mad at me over here. So that was my other life. Hurricane preparedness. I know little about them. You guys probably are going to be able to tell me more about them. And I've already heard some really cool tips and tricks about how to be prepared and what to do that I had no idea. So let me start by telling you how we prepare at the Red Cross for what's coming. This is not something that we do 24 hours before we think we're going to get a storm or once we see one hit the radar. This is something that we are dedicated year-round to being prepared. We have to be prepared to take care of everybody, all of you guys. So we are consistently talking about shelters. Where do we have these shelters? Who are we going to make arrangements with that can be shelters? What's the best place? Are we in a flood zone? Where do we need them? These are all the things that we're doing for you guys. So when something happens and you need a shelter, guess what? Here we are. Now you're at the shelter, you're starving, things are going on, we got to feed you. So we're talking year-round about who are our food partners, who can we buy food from, who's going to give us a discount. We're working with food banks, we're working with caterers. If you know of any, I'm saying all these things in detail, so if you know of any or you want to talk to me later, please do, because this is an ongoing thing. It doesn't happen overnight. You get to the shelter, you get fed, 3 meals. Oh man. All right, he fixed it. Now you're at the shelter. Now you're terrified, but it's all right because we're going to feed you. We got a roof over your head. We've got a great staff full of mental health professionals and skilled, trained volunteers that are going to walk you through everything. They're going to make sure that you're safe and you're comfortable and you're fed 3 meals plus comfort food, which is something nobody thinks about. Yes, we provide potato chips and comfort food because you're in this weird situation in this weird place, right? That's what everybody wants to do is eat. Something else. Oh, yes. Pots, blankets, comfort kits. All these things that you would experience in a shelter, this is what we're doing year-round. This is what we're preparing for. We're making sure that we have enough. And I'm saying all this because, yes, this is where your money is going. We need the cots. We need the blankets. We need the comfort kits. If there is ever any type of disaster, some of you probably have been there, you always get a comfort kit. It has your toothbrush, your shampoo, your conditioner, all of those immediate needs for you. That's what you're getting. That's how we prepare. How can you guys prepare? Look, you think I might have practiced this, right? I didn't. How do you guys prepare? Well, I have this book that you can't see because I can't hold it up straight. This is a guide. It's really very in-depth. You probably are very familiar with this. Again, I was not. This has information as to where are the shelters, what are the routes to get to the shelters, where do you need to go, how can you be prepared, how can your pet be prepared? Something I also didn't know. You can pick these up at any Publix, any gas station. The emergency manager actually has them, or you can come to the Red Cross and we will give you one. Beyond that, we have this list. Here's what you actually need, and I have probably enough here for most of you to pick one of these up, and they're on 2 languages. Do you know what you need? Does everybody have what you need? You need batteries, you need flashlights, you need 1 gallon of water per day. You need to have at least 3 days on hand. And you know what? That means your pets too. I'm getting a fuzzy here. Your pets need at least 1 gallon of water a day. Did I move on you? You need to have a bag that's ready to go with your dog's collars, their leashes, their dog food, anything you think you're gonna need, because you don't know what that's gonna be. Are you agreeing with me, or do I need to be louder? Okay, well, that's good. I like when you agree with me. You've probably been through it, have you? Sure. What's your, I don't want to ask everybody, what's the #1 takeaway from going through it you think everybody would need to know about preparedness?
Just be aware that it can change very quickly.
Right, so you got to be prepared. You got to have your bags ready to go.
Charlie went from a 2 to a 4 in 45 minutes.
Wow.
45 minutes.
These things terrify me, but they shouldn't, because we're all going to know what to do. Mary Ann's told me stories about hurricanes that have changed paths, and she wasn't planning on it, but then she had to go to a shelter, and you got to be ready to go. So I'm not going to go through this huge list, which I might be looking at the Spanish side, and bore you with all of it, but it's important to think about the things that I didn't think about. You got to have a bag ready for your cat or your dog or whatever it is that's going to go with you. You've got to have a plan. You've got to know where those shelters are. I'm learning, that the news will come on and the news will list all of those shelters. This has tons and tons of information. And here's something interesting that we also don't have in Michigan. I'm a big pet person. Obviously, I got a dog. If you've got to leave, if you've got to go into a shelter, we can't, as a Red Cross shelter, take your pet. But we're not going to turn you out in the cold. We're not going to turn your pet out in the cold. We know that those pets are really important to you. In this book, so that you can be prepared in advance, not when you're running from a hurricane, we have contracts, or the city has contracts, with emergency pet caretakers. I know that's not really the right word. But there are shelters that you can take your pet. You can't stay with them, but they'll take care of your pet. They're pet shelters. And then you go pick them up afterward. This is really important. I know not everybody has animals, but huge thing to think about. Because if you get to that shelter and they're not going to take your dog, I'm not staying. I'm sorry. I'm going to sit in my car and let the hurricane take me, right? Okay, this is why I make my notes, right? No, I forgot something, but that's all right, because we're going to talk about some money now. See, I had this great speech planned, and then everything changed, and there's some really heavy but really important stuff I want to talk to you about. So we're going to fly through the money, because Mary Ann tells me that there's myths about how you can donate. Can you donate locally? Where does my money go? I heard if I donate to the Red Cross, it just goes in this huge bucket, and I have no control over it, and nothing happens here. None of that's true. There are variations to how that story became, but none of that is true. If you want to give to the Red Cross, you can give any way that you want to, and we're going to honor your donor intent. If you want to give locally, you write that on the check, you tell me. This is also where major gift officers like me really come into play, because we want you to be educated on how we spend your money, what we're doing, what's important to you, where do you want your money to go. I'm your advocate for what we're doing, what you want to be done, and I make sure that your money is gifted properly. So don't be scared of me, I'm your friend. So here's what happens. There's lots of ways to give. You can give locally, you can give to disaster, you can give to disaster locally. You can give to service to armed forces, which I'm really not going to talk about, is another best kept secret. You can give to the Red Cross generally, you can give to the Red Cross general disaster. I know, I just dumped a whole bunch of stuff on you. Here's what happens. If you give to the Red Cross, generally the Red Cross, we're going to use your money however your money is needed with the Red Cross, wherever your money is needed. It means it could go to blood, it could go to service to armed forces, it could go to disaster. Wherever our need is, that's where we're going to spend it, because that's where you told us you just want to help. If you give to the Red Cross disaster, generally, we're going to use your money wherever and whenever there's a disaster, wherever that money is needed. It could be in Texas, as some of you have heard me talk about their pounding flooding. It could be, because that's general disaster. And we have to be prepared and we have to be ready to respond. We have to have comfort kits, we have to have gas, we have to have blankets. We respond immediately. We don't respond after I call you guys all up and I run around for months and I fundraise, and then the event has happened a month ago and then we've collected the money and now we can go respond. No, we gotta be ready to go. That's where our general disaster budget comes from. You can give locally. You can give to your local disaster, regionally, Florida. You want that money to stay in Florida? The money will stay in Florida. You can do whatever you want to do, but know that when help is needed here, your money is coming from everywhere, because we might not have enough locally for whatever that huge disaster was, but we're still going to take care of you. I want to step back a little bit on that note of money, and you can talk to me later if there's any questions. Just know that we'll honor your donor intent wherever that money is. You can give where it's important to you. We'll make sure that happens. I want to talk a little bit about what happened in Orlando, because I've been getting calls all week. I'm going to do it without crying. I've been getting calls all week about, what are you doing? Are you there? My mother-in-law is calling me. My mother's calling me. People don't know what we're doing, if we're there. Yes, we were there. We responded at 8 a.m. What we're really doing is providing mental health services for first responders and for the families and the people that are there. We've also provided snacks and water. We have been there, we will continue to in the days and weeks to come, and we're analyzing all of those needs for whatever it is that we need to do. That's what we're doing. We're working with local agencies, other partner agencies that are there in Orlando to see what they need and how we can service them. That's what we're doing. Then there's blood. Red Cross is helping with blood. We have sent, I don't know how much, type O negative blood, and we sent it immediately to the local hospitals in Orlando. I'm going to talk a little bit about that later, because that's the best kept secret that's on my mind today. Without associating this with money, I want to say first of all that we are not asking for money for this disaster, as you typically always hear me call you and say, here's a disaster, we need money. We're not. And I want to point that out because it's important in relation to what I just talked about, where we get our money from and how we're going to use your money. We don't need money for this event. However, and if you designate it, that's the other thing I forgot, you can designate. If there's a specific disaster, you can designate your money for that specific disaster. And let me step back and talk about the tornado that hit Cape Coral. You can designate to that tornado that hit Cape Coral. We're going to use your money there. But if within that week or a month, another tornado hit Cape Coral, we don't have the money for that. The one in January that hit Cape Coral, right? The tornado last January. We were there. We had handed out tarps and comfort kits. And we had lots of people that wanted to fundraise. But they wanted to fundraise specifically for that event. And there were more tornadoes and there were more weather situations coming in. The problem with the designation, and you give however you want, but the problem is it's isolated to that time frame in that event. So if we don't need that much money, it stays there, and yes, it helps those people, and yes, we'll use it there. But what if another tornado, like did sort of happen, came in a month later, a week later? We're out fundraising again, because you said I can't use your money for lots of tornadoes in Cape Coral, only this one. Which is why we get to the broader spectrum of donating, which is where it makes more sense. Without being too convoluted and mixing up emotions, I want to step back. We are not asking you to donate for our services in Orlando. We are providing those. I won't accept designations. I'll give you your money back. And I'll tell you we're working with local organizations, and I'll give you some of those names so you can call them, because we want the money to go where it's needed most, where it's going to help most, and where you want to spend it. That being said, the money that allowed us to respond immediately and to still be there right now came out of our general disaster fund, because we're going to be wherever and whenever help is needed most. That's where it becomes important to say, I want my money to help. If the help is here, fine. If the help is somewhere else, fine. Again, I don't want to push that in your face. If you don't want to do it, that's okay. But I want you to understand the cycle about where our money comes from and how it all comes around, and it's all needed to help, and it's all going to make us prepared. Okay. I think I'm going to talk about blood now. No. She said blood money. No. No, but you really did. You helped me go right into what I needed to, though, because it's funny that you said that. I usually, when I meet with people, ask them, what do you know about the Red Cross? And the answer is different. If you're in Florida, people say disasters, hurricanes. If you're in Michigan, they say blood. Because the Red Cross is blood. That's what we do. That's what we're founded on. And I'll tell you, of all the networking events that I walked into in Michigan, somebody would invariably look at me and say, oh, you're Red Cross, you want my blood. And I would say, yeah, I want your blood, and I want your money. And then they'd run away. So, the Red Cross actually supplies 40% of the nation's blood. This is important because of all these conversations. You know, you guys in Florida don't know what we do about blood because we don't actually have blood drives here. The reason why we don't have blood drives here is because the hospitals are mandated by Florida to collect blood. It doesn't make sense, it's not good use of your donor dollar for us to also do that when the hospitals are doing that and they do a good job. But here's what happens. Like I said, the Red Cross sent type O negative, which is a universal blood type. Anybody can take it. We immediately sent that to Florida to the hospitals because you had this event and you needed blood, and the local hospitals cannot support that need just with their local donors. Anytime there's a need, anytime these local hospitals are short anywhere, they're getting it from the Red Cross. You can't just call Walmart and say, I'm gonna go get 90 pints of blood today. It's gotta come from somewhere. It comes from the Red Cross because we are busy every single day collecting blood from 47 states. There's only 3 that we don't, and the reason why we don't is because the hospitals do it. There's not a need there, and we don't wanna waste money. So, something happened to me on Monday. My mother-in-law called me in light of this blood conversation. And like many of you, she was watching the news, and of course she wanted to know if I was busy, because I'm in Florida. Yeah, I'm busy. She's watching the news and she wants to help. And she texted me and she said, they say they want us to give blood to help, because I'm sure she's feeling helpless and she's up in Michigan and what can we do, right? She said, and I want to get her words right because her words were really important. She said, but I can't see it helping there. That goes back to what I just said. It helps there. The Red Cross, brought blood down here that we had collected because there was a shortage here. And I want to talk a little bit about what happens when something happens. How does blood really work? And what's the whole scope of this blood? And I gotta tell you, it's a different situation here in Florida. I saw a flyer in my HOA for a blood drive once, and it said, your blood stays here. Blood collected here stays here. Why do you want that? Blood has a shelf life. 5 weeks. Your blood is good for 5 weeks. And yes, I've heard rumors that, people think that we freeze it and it's lasted forever and we're just gonna collect Mary Ann's blood and I'm gonna freeze it. Whenever Mary Ann needs it, I'm gonna whip out Mary Ann's blood. 5 weeks. Platelets, 5 days. That's it, and it's gone. So why would you, just like the money thing, why would you want to be self-contained in the world of blood, something so vital? Wouldn't you want the Red Cross to help you? Wouldn't you want your blood to go wherever it's needed most? You might not have that luxury because you're donating here in the Floridian hospitals. That's okay, but you're still donating, you're still helping, and if you need help, you're going to get help. And that's why it's important. So here's the event. We're going to get away from what happened. Something happens. You have a huge hurricane. You have a plane crash, a huge car accident. Something happens, and this hospital has an influx of people that all need blood. The hospital only has the blood that they've collected on their, average daily use scales, whatever they have in store from whoever has donated. All of a sudden, the hospital needs all of that blood. So you can see the obvious that we've just talked about. You need more blood. The Red Cross brings you more blood for that incident. But let's take a wider scope and see what happens. All of this blood is going for this incident. What happens? You've got daily people, right? You've got the surgeries that you've already scheduled. You've got the patients that are already there. You've got the whatever car accidents or, cooking accidents where you cut your thumb off, whatever it is that on a normal basis would have normally happened and the hospital would normally be using the blood this way. So you've got that, plus you've got this huge thing going on. You need more blood. You can't just wait for you guys to go out and for it to be collected, and you're gonna wait on this event for the days that it takes. And then think about this, and I know I'm going off on a tangent, but I feel like this blood thing is really important to understand because it's vital for all of us in this room, all of us at some point. Think about this. If I'm in a Florida hospital and something happened and I need blood, not only can I not wait because now we're at a shortage, which could be this backed up shortage, but what happens when I collect that blood? I don't just collect it and put it into Mary Ann, right? I gotta collect it, I've gotta transfer it, I've gotta analyze it. Because the Red Cross was the leader in the process to clean, to analyze, to filter blood, to make sure your blood is safe to be given. And that's what we have. We have 3 places in the nation. We're the leaders in that, and hospitals still use that. So you've got that extra process where that blood is getting checked to make sure that by the time it gets to that patient, that it's good blood. All of that going on, I know I went off a little left field there. All of that going on, let's just say it's really important to give blood to the local hospitals, wherever you're going to need it, and that's something really important that the Red Cross does. And if you need it, we're going to be here. And this just really skipped in Florida. I'm sorry. If you do want to donate for what's going on, you want to donate blood, we're asking that you call One Blood because they serve all of Florida. They can get everything where it needs to go with ease. So if anybody is interested in helping in that way, you can do that. See, this is what happens when you go on notes, right? Right. Okay. So, I know I was a little bit heavy there. I hope that you now feel prepared to deal with hurricanes. And if you don't, here's a guide. You can pick one up. Here's a list. The most important point is that you have a plan, that you're prepared way in advance before it hits, and that you know where to go, right? Okay, that was my whole speech there. So we know what to do with hurricanes. We know where our money goes. We know how important blood is. If anybody wants to volunteer or you want more information about any of those things, you can see me afterward. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak, Marianne. I do appreciate it.